Hi, this is Dr. Seymour P Kern, and we're here at a convention for low noise thinking. That's LNT. The topics for discussion today will be suicide, sex, and memory. Can you think of anything better? Okay, it's March the 6th, 2021, and we're in Sydney, Australia, at a little mini convention here for low noise thinking. And before we get into the arena of how we're going to solve or address the problems of suicide, sex, and memory, we need to go into the dynamics of the actual construct as to how LNT or low noise thinking works. So we need to know, if you know the structure of a drug, basically, you know how the drug will function. Well, basically, if you know the structure of what we're going to be talking about, then chances are we'll get something very valuable out of it. There's been a lot of discussion on learning revolving all these three arenas, and to be honest with you, uh, they missed, virtually all of them missed the boat, sorry to say. But anyway, let's start. So, low noise thinking. We have two elements there that are of infinite value. One is noise, and the other is thinking. And we're talking about low noise, so which implies there is high noise, middle noise, low noise, and no noise. And we're going to be talking a little bit about each of these areas and how it impacts on what we're going to be addressing. Okay, so let's talk about information. All right. Right now you're hearing me speak, but if the noise level of this location goes up too high, you won't be able to hear a word I say. If you go out, let's say out to the tarmac at Sydney Airport, you won't be able to hear a pin drop. Yet if you go to your house at night and it's ultra quiet and everybody's asleep, chances are you'll you'll hear the pin drop. So it all is a matter of a ratio called the signal to noise ratio. And so we're going to get into the actual structure as to how the brain actually works, how it records information. And even if you have had no training, or if you think you have a bad memory or whatever, we're going to show you that within a few minutes, how to fix the problem real fast. So I want you to enjoy, sit back and relax. I'm doing the same, and we'll have a little discussion here. This will be a multi-part, well, I figure about uh, 3, 4, or 5 discussions. We'll try to make it as brief as possible. Okay, so let's examine the concept of signal to noise ratio. Okay, in a ratio, we have the numerator, in which case this is the signal or the actual information that we want to transmit. And then in the denominator, uh, we have the noise level. Okay, now we know that if the noise level is very, very high, the signal to noise ratio will be very low. Um, excuse me, and if the noise level is above the signal level, you won't be able to decipher anything that I say. It will be totally obliterated. Okay, so having high noise is like walking uphill all day long, at least mentally, electronically in the head. Um, and we're not just going to be talking about noise in the form of sound, but we're going to be talking to you about noise in general. It could be electronic. It could be any type of information that we don't want. That's technically noise, you know. We don't need it. So, okay, so we talked about when the noise level is very high, we're dragging our feet. Now, if the noise level is in the middle, then we could function. So once the signal to noise ratio is greater than 1, it means that we have some sort of transmission from person to person or from one location in the brain to another. It'll work. Okay, so now that leaves no noise and very low noise. Okay? Very low noise, you'll find that a lot of people who are extremely bright, and I mean like genius level. When I was in med school, I remember there were a couple of guys there that had really very noise level, and they didn't even go to class. They would just flip through the pages of a book and ace the examination. And I'm thinking, how do they could do that? What's the mechanism? Well, you have to understand all this stuff. So some people have naturally low noise levels in their nervous system, in the brain specifically in this case. Um, so what will happen is when the noise level of the brain is low, every part of the brain, every node in the brain, every location communicates with every other location in the brain, and you basically have an electronic meltdown. It's like a short circuit. Uh, it's overcompensated. You're overwhelmed. Many different terms to use. So uh, this is what happens when the signal level uh, is far greater than the noise level, or when the noise level approaches zero. As you know, any number divided by a low number becomes a very high number. And when it approaches zero or hits zero, then you get that little infinity sign. It's infinite. The one with the figure eight lying on its side. That's called infinity. So when you have zero noise, basically that signifies death. And you don't have some noise in the body or in the brain. You have a total short circuit. So people who have nightmares, by the way, when you're in sleep, the noise level does drop down quite a bit. And when it does so, um, as I said, virtually every part of the brain communicates to every other part of the brain, and you have a nightmare. Now, some dreams could be pleasant, and most dreams are not. And when you wake up from a nightmare, you still think that the story is still there. When it's really not. It's called a form of fake news, fake information. So now, the first thing I want you to know that in the realm of suicide, the noise level drops down very, very low. And these people have a natural tendency to commit suicide because there's nothing, no medication, there's nothing that you could do to prevent, there's nothing you can do. It's just going to happen. And if you try to delay it, sooner or later it will happen. It's unfortunate that's the situation. So perhaps by raising the noise level of the brain, it's difficult to do. Yeah, decreasing is one thing, but to elevate it, well, you could try, but chances are you won't succeed. So if let's say somebody commits suicide, a lot of people have a very big guilt feeling that comes across them because they um, think that they did it, and when it had nothing to do with them, it was going to happen anyway. And this is a big controversy right now in town with the Chris Porter, the Attorney General, where his girlfriend from many years ago um, um, is had committed suicide, and now they're blaming him for it when they shouldn't be because there is nothing to prevent it. It's just going to happen. You can take all the drugs, all the whatever. Yeah, you can knock yourself out, but in your daylight hours, you're going to be walking around with low memory or low noise, and now what will happen is when the noise level of the brain drops down, um, your memory increases. So, um, but there are ways to actually deal with memory because you have to understand that the human brain um, uh, deals with memory in a different way, right? And there's there's many different types of memory. We're going to take the major ones. There's long-term, short-term, uh, and that's no big deal. But the big one is Uh, when the noise level is low, then every other part of the brain communicates with every other part of the brain. And yes, you are able to compensate, and but up to only a certain point, in which case then you terminate your life, and that's the end of the deal. So, um, but anything that makes you feel good will lower the noise level. Okay, everybody has a different degree of noise, and the thing that we can work with is, well, we can work with the information, no problem, but the big one is the noise. And there's all different types of noise. There's electronic noise, there's audio noise, there's, again, it's anything that you don't want is considered to be noise. But all right, so another thing that you need to know is, what is the one big difference, and only one big difference, between the human brain or the human mind and a computer and the idea. Um, I'll leave that as an unanswered question right now, and that's for those of you who want to listen. And next time, I'll tell you the answer. And once you know that, then you'll be able to ace any examination. Your steps will be phenomenal. Uh, Suicide, well, that's a maybe. Um, who knows? But in suicide, you usually have a damaged area in the brain that sends out a signal to the rest of the brain, kill me, I want out, kill me, kill me, kill me. And it goes on and on in the mind. You don't notice it's silent to anybody external, but boy, it's really happening big time internally. And so there's a lot of denial, a lot of guarding. I've seen so many different times where people who are ultra bright end up committing suicide. It's really a shame. But those are the facts, and it's nobody's fault. You cannot blame yourself, and hopefully that will be of help to Attorney General Chris Porter, if somebody would like to reach me for my opinion. He should not, he doesn't, there's no way that he could have committed, or he could have coerced that girl to committing suicide. There's absolutely no way, Jose. Okay. But now, as far as his committing any sexual act, well, the trouble with people who have low noise or have nightmares or imagery, they're gonna carry images, whatever they want, whether real or not real, into their mind, and they'll play it over and over and over again and again. So there's nothing here to prove that he had sex or didn't have sex. I mean, sex is a natural thing. I'm sure everybody, no matter who you are, is gonna, is gonna require it, whether or not it was, with permission or without permission. That's a lot of baloney. To use the U.S. expression, there's nothing wrong with sex. Is normal. Um, and unless you're actually going to rip somebody up to pieces, well, then that's a problem. You don't do that. But just by merely two people approaching each other and getting it off, well, that's normal. Go to any zoo, you'll see how the monkeys, that, they're out there in the numbers. Anyway, without sex, you're not going to have the expansion of the population. So let's not put any blame in that. And all the psychological stuff is a lot of nonsense. Oh, yeah, I mean, everybody reacts differently, but I wouldn't. It's not a major arguing point. Therefore, a lot of women feel cheated, and they go to a psychologist or whatever, or, somebody puts it in their mind um, that they've been coerced. Well, I don't buy that. If they got any pleasure out of it, then that's okay. Now, if it's forceful, you'll never know, but I doubt it. Um, I really doubt it. So, from all counts, Chris Porter was probably low noise thinking theory was more than just theory, it's fact. Uh, every device, every item, every human being, we're not going to tell you the secret yet, so that's for you to come by next time. I need somebody to contact me. By the way, if you want to contact me about any of this stuff, feel free to send me an email at cybercy, that's CYBERCY at ME.com. And then, yeah, and just, again, it's C for Charlie, Y for Young, B for Boy, E for Edward, R for Romeo, and then C for Charlie, Y for Young, at ME.com. Again, it's cybersci at ME.com. And I'll be happy to spend a lot of time with you over the phone or however you want to talk or meet. Um, you're quite welcome. Okay, so we've talked briefly about signal to noise ratio. We talked briefly about memory, about the suicidal patient. We haven't actually really touched upon sex, but I'm sure most of you know what that is all about. I don't have to educate you on that one. We just have to tell you what's real and what's not real, and what are the formulas that we use, at least that I use, that I've used over the last 40, 50 years in dealing with a wide range of people. By the way, I'm an electrical engineer, graduated with honors from New York University. I'm also a medical doctor, and so I don't know what else to tell you at this point. Let's take a break. And we're going to be carrying on to answer the question of what is the one thing that makes a human different from a machine? Okay, what's the one and only one thing? And you'll be very amazed when you hear the answer. Okay, I look forward to talking to you. I'm going to put this up on the YouTube screen. Hopefully it'll get out to everybody. And fascinating topic, and I appreciate your presence and interest. And if you can let a lot more people know about it, there's a lot of people that we can help, basically for free, with a little bit of deadly information. Okay. Enjoy life. Life was meant to be enjoyed. Be well. Bye.